I upgraded from a Quest 2 to a Quest 3. And yeah, it was kind of a lot of money. So today I'm here to answer the same exact question I had before I picked mine up. And it's, will you regret upgrading from the Quest 2 to the Quest 3? Or does the Quest 2 still hold up in 2025? I'll break down the real world differences, skip all the marketing fluff, and by the end, you're gonna know if upgrading is the right path for you. Let's start out with a quick stat comparison between the Quest 2, the Quest 3S, and the Quest 3. I would show off the Quest 3S as well, Meta's budget option, but I just simply don't have one. I'm gonna break this down into 3 different sections: the good, the bad, and the things I kind of thought were cool, but didn't really make that much of a difference. Now, the first really good thing that stood out to me on these headsets is just the visual clarity. Demio was really the first game that hit me. On Quest 2, I had to tilt the cards in just the right position to actually be able to read them. And even then, I was still squinting very hard and going cross-eyed, trying to tell what the heck my cards did. Whereas in the Quest 3, that's essentially gone. It's still there just a little bit, but it's a way better experience for the player. Honestly, any menu or UI element is just so much cleaner to read. Because if you have the Quest 2 just slightly off of that very small sweet spot, you basically can't tell what's going on at all. Whereas in the Quest 3, that is gone. The main reason why is because the Quest 2 is using something called Fresnel lenses, whereas the Quest 3 is using pancake lenses. Fresnel lenses are essentially these etched glass lenses that are flat, that give it a traditional curved lens look, which definitely worked for the Quest 2. They were cheap. It made the Quest 2 cheap for consumers everywhere, but they're not that great to look through. Mirror that to the pancake lenses on the Quest 3, which are like thin, lightweight camera lenses that are also flat and compact and have a wider viewing angle, which means there's a lot more areas where there is a quote unquote sweet spot for you to look through that makes things a lot clearer. Couple that with the fact that the Quest 2 only had one large LCD screen where you're looking at it with both of your eyes, whereas the Quest 3 has these 2 different screens, one for each eye, that are also a higher resolution LCD panel that are 2068 by 2208 pixels per eye versus the Quest 2's single LCD screen that was only 1832 by 1920 pixels. Text-heavy games, any productivity apps, or anything with UI, which is pretty much everything that you're using inside the Quest 3, are just way cleaner to look at. The second huge change that Meta made with the Quest 3 is the new XR2 chip that they put in versus the XR1 chip in the original Quest 2. Now, I'm a casual VR gamer. I'm not super into all the tech behind it, but essentially what that does is it means that your headset can run higher resolution games, show higher resolution, and it just has so much more bang for your buck with what you're actually playing with. Basically think of it as the same as upgrading your phone. Yeah, the iPhone you got in 2021 is still gonna run, it's still gonna look good, but the 2025 version of that same iPhone is just going to be able to do everything so much quicker, better, faster, and look better while doing it. Now that being said, it's not perfect. There's definitely still stutter and different artifacts you're gonna see in games, especially very intensive games like Blade and Sorcery Nomad and Asgard's Wrath 2. I do still sometimes whip my head left and right, and it kind of takes a second to catch up, but it's not nearly as bad as it was in the Quest 2. Now, the third good thing about the Quest 3, which is something I kind of thought might have been gimmicky or I wouldn't really care about it that much, is the color pass-through. So basically, whenever you're wearing the headset, you can double tap the side of it and it'll go through pass-through mode. If you've used the Quest 2, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whereas in the Quest 2, it was black and white. And I do have a friend that says he prefers the black and white pass-through because it kind of makes him feel like Predator. So I mean, if that's the vibe you're going for, then I totally support it. But if you want to be able to actually look at your phone, read the texts, look at a screen, or really anything else you're going to use pass-through for, then it's a clear advantage. It's a feature that I didn't think I'd love, but I think I love it more than anything else they added in the Quest headset, especially because it kind of makes the headset not feel as isolating as the Quest 2 did when everything was black and white, kind of like you're removed from the world. And now it kind of feels like you're stepping back into it anytime you use the color pass-through. Now, the fourth good thing, and something that I think is probably more important to an average VR user than any of the other things I've mentioned so far, is the forward compatibility that you're going to get picking up a Quest 3 versus sticking with your Quest 2 or even picking up a used Quest 2. Because in a way, you're basically buying into the future. New games that are coming out, new AAA titles, even updates to old games are using that XR2 chip that is in the Quest 3 that they simply can't do in the Quest 2. The same can be said for any of the new games coming out. Developers are basically looking at the Quest 3 as what they are going to create their next games on. It's kind of like having a PS5 or an Xbox One Series X, whereas, yeah, you can play your PS4 games on it, you can play your PS3 games on it, but if you want access to the new games coming out, you have to upgrade the hardware. So we're kind of entering like a transitionary period where developers are starting to leave the Quest 2 behind and start to move towards the Quest 3. So the longer you wait to either upgrade or to stick with your Quest 2, the further and further you're going to be left behind and not be able to enjoy these new experiences. That being said, you can still use the Quest 2 and the Quest 3 to do AirLink or PC VR. So if you're really just playing in that space, it might be worth it to stick with your Quest 2 if you simply just need something to plug in. But if you like to have the portability of the Quest 3, which is something that I do like to have, then that Quest 3 is going to be what you need to move to continue enjoying those experiences. All right, so Quest 3 sounding pretty good so far, right?
Shut up and take my money.
At least it did to me. That's kind of where we get into the bad things. So let's just go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. This thing is not cheap. You're basically buying a brand new system that out of the box is really good, but for you to really get the full bang for your buck, you're going to have to mod it. You're going to have to upgrade it. You're going to have to change some things on it. That includes the softwares you're running on it. That includes things like the head strap. If you want any of the accessories you can grab. You basically have an option of a 128 gigabyte model or a 512 gigabyte model. I got mine for $499 for the 512 gigabyte model. And the OS itself is already somewhere around 20. So you can just knock that number off of whichever model you get. Now with that price, I did get the new Batman Arkham Knight. Is it Arkham Knight? Arkham Shadow, which is really cool. And I also got 3 months of Meta Plus for free, which kind of takes the sting out, but I'm gonna be honest, not by that much, considering you still have other things you need to upgrade on the headset. So if you're a semi-active VR gamer, trying out the new games, trying out the new experiences, even downloading the games you get through Meta Plus, then that storage is gonna go really quickly. Now going back to having to mod the headset, the strap that comes with it, this thing right here, freaking sucks. This thing is awful. It was literally a headache. 30 minutes of playing, and even though the headset itself wasn't actually giving me a headache from the screen in my eyes, it was these two little straps on the back digging into the back of my skull that made me take the headset off. Not even 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, which sucks because then I'd get a really bad headache. I'd take some ibuprofen. I'd have to spend about an hour or so outside of the headset whenever I only played for about 30 minutes. Now I'm gonna go ahead and tell you the only real difference, there are two, is one, the size of the holders is slightly different. So you actually can't take any of your old headset straps you might have had on your Quest 2 and move it to the Quest 3 because the Quest 3 is slightly larger. And the other change is that these plastic back ends that were on the Quest 2, all they really did is add a ponytail slot. So I guess more women can enjoy it maybe. And they changed the plastic to a slightly less hard plastic. One good trick that I found if you can't afford a head strap right away is to grab a hat, throw it on backwards. So whenever you have the head strap on, it essentially, it looks so stupid. The hard plastic parts will essentially go against the back of it. And that kind of extended my playtime from maybe 30 minutes to closer to an hour. It's slightly more comfortable, but at the end of the day, just get a new head strap. So the best way to look at that starting price is that, a starting price. You still have to budget in about another 100, 150 bucks, depending on the head strap you want to get, depending on other accessories you might want to get. So you're really looking at a $600 or so headset. And that's before you even start getting into the games and the different things you want to download onto it. So that's essentially console tier money. And it is a console, but it doesn't have the same support that the consoles of today have, which definitely means I second guessed the purchase. I kept the receipt just in case. I wanted to play it for a little bit to see if it was actually worth upgrading or if I would have been fine in my Quest 2. That way I had a little insurance for myself if it wasn't a good purchase for me. All right, moving into bad thing number 2, and I kind of hinted at this before, it's just the games that are on it right now. Sure, you're buying into the future and you're basically future-proofing yourself for the next 2, 3, 4 years of new games coming out until Meta decides to drop a Quest 4 on us, which doesn't sound like it's going to be anytime soon. But there's not really a lot of Quest 3 exclusives. You can still play a lot on the Quest 2, and you can still experience a lot of different things on the Quest 2. But with the Quest 3, the only true exclusives I could really find, I'll pop up right now, and they're fun, but I don't know if they're $600 fun. So basically the future isn't really here yet. To be fair, developers weren't sure if they're going to have to move to a Quest 4 anytime soon, but it sounds like Meta is going to allow the platform on the Quest 3 to mature a little bit, meaning developers are more incentivized to continue making games for it rather than having to scrap their game and then move it to a new Quest headset. And because of that, it kind of still feels like an early adopter device. So unless you're like really hyped on the different Quest 3 exclusive games that are out right now today, it kind of feels like a souped up Quest 2. Don't get me wrong, it's a really souped up S2. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. Now, the further we get down the line in the life cycle of the Quest 3, it's going to feel less and less like that because you're only going to be able to experience those on it. But for right now, And to be fair, those are really my only complaints with the Quest 3. It's just the fact that we don't have a ton of exclusives yet, especially ones you can't get on PC VR and just Airlink or plug your Quest 2 into your PC. And the fact that, yeah, you do get virtual reality in the box, but it's not really comfortable virtual reality quite yet. Now that moves us into what I'm calling the indifferent tier. These are the things that look really good on paper, but in practice, it doesn't really matter that much to me, or at least I personally did not feel a huge difference in them. And the first one, which might be a little surprising, is just the comfort and the fit of it. On paper, the Quest 3 is slimmer, it's lighter than the Quest 2, but it doesn't feel like a lot. And to prove that, I'm going to do a run. And to prove that, I'm gonna do a time trial run, one wearing the Quest 2 and one wearing the Quest 3, and just see if I ran any faster in the Quest 3. So as you can see, not that much of a difference, if anything, at all. You can run just as fast in the Quest 3 as you can in the Quest 2. So if that was something you're worried about, then maybe just stick with your Quest 2 for now. The next indifferent thing, battery life. I think it goes from like 2 to 2.5 hours on the Quest 2, goes from like 2.2 to 2.5 hours on the Quest 3. So you're not really going to notice a difference. In fact, you might notice that the Quest 3 drains faster just because games are pulling more power out of the headset and out of that XR2 chip, which also leads us to charging time. They both still take around the same amount of time to charge, 2 to 2.5 hours. So with all of that said, will you regret upgrading from your Quest 2 to your Quest 3? For me, no, but I'm also someone that really enjoys getting into VR. I enjoy new tech. I enjoy experiencing the new things that are coming out, but it's definitely not a no-brainer, and it kind of comes down to the type of VR player that you are. If you're using PC VR with your Quest 2 and you're happy with it, stick with your Quest 2. If you're someone that wants to play standalone games and really get the most out of your VR experience, I say the Quest 3 or the Quest 3S. Because at the end of the day, upgrading from the Quest 2 to the Quest 3 is kind of like upgrading your phone. You can still doom scroll on your phone. You can still take pictures. You can still post them to Instagram, Facebook, Meta, whatever. But the new headset just does it better. The same way that the new phones just do it better. The visuals are sharper. The pass through for me is awesome. I love it. And we're seeing games starting to shift forward into the Quest 3. But the thing is, it's not really a necessity if you're getting a lot of playtime out of your Quest 2, or if you're just never playing it whatsoever other than every once in a while. So I definitely would boil it down to a luxury purchase, or if you're American, more than likely a credit card bill, because you're kind of buying the future before the future's really arrived yet. The hardware is there, but the software still needs some time to really catch up and make use of it. That said, I've happily put my Quest up 2 for sale, and I don't think I'm ever going to go back to it. I love the Quest 3. I think it's a phenomenal piece of hardware, piece of tech, and you simply can't play games on other consoles really like you can play it in the Quest. Like, I really feel like the Quest 3 is a really good mix of price, portability, and just straight up fun, but it is an early adopter device. It's really for the people that like VR, and I wouldn't recommend it to someone that has a casual passing curiosity in VR. I definitely think the Quest 3S would be a better pickup for those people. Or if you really just want to try it out and you want something more than the little cardboard phone thing we had back in 2014, then pick up a Quest 2 on the used market. I really don't think they're going for much, which also kind of comes down to who are you buying the Quest for? Are you buying it for you as a VR gamer? Are you buying it for your child, a spouse? Are you a grandparent? If you're a grandparent, let me know down below, because then I definitely recommend the Quest 3S over it. It's about $100 cheaper, and it still has the new chip in it. So if you're planning on playing it for the next couple of years, the Quest 3 is a clear winner. The Quest 3S is a clear runner-up, and the Quest 2 is something I'd probably just go ahead and drop out of my mind. And if you are picking up the Quest 3 or 3S for that matter, the thing is you're not really getting the full bulk of the VR experience right out the box. So if you're interested in knowing how to set up your Quest 3 once you get it running, then go ahead and click this video up here somewhere, where we're going to go through the first 5 things you should do with your Quest the second you turn the thing on. It'll save you a little time, a little frustration, and it's definitely going to save you a headache. And if you're still on the fence, then let us know in the comments below and let's all talk about it and try to figure out what the best Quest for you would be. And on that note, peace.